But here it says that if you're a grihasta, or you're not living in the temple, and you're not engaged in full-time worship, full-time service, then you should worship deities, or else you'll get into trouble. Chatsy.com, www.chatsy.com. All right. Kush says www.chatsy.com. Let's try that. That could be revolutionary. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Your name. You have to create a new chat room. I don't know how to do it, Kush. I don't have the brains for it. Anyway, I think we're okay on Mayapur TV. So, as far as deity worship is concerned, it's stated by Prabhupada, and here it is also stated that grihastas should worship the deity because they're engaged in other things during the day and they need to be purified. Morning and evening, or at least when you have deities, you should do something once a day, like arti. General standard is at least one arti for home worship and one offering. But of course, whatever you eat ideally should be offered to the deity. But the idea is that you need to be purified because all day you're engaged in earning money. Shame on you. No, only joking. You're earning money associating with non-devotees, getting contaminated, polluted by material activities. And so you have to come home and worship the deities and purify yourself of all the dirt accumulated during the day. Where if you're preaching all day, then anything goes. You don't have to worship the deities, although worshiping the deities is purifying. And many devotees who are fully engaged in devotional service have their own deities. So, we're joking here a little bit, but Prabhupada especially said for householders who are very busy with household affairs, worshiping the deity is very important. And last night we were at a devotee's home, and her father's a Brahmin, and she said when they were kids, he trained them up in deity worship and all Brahminical activities and standards. So that's in Brahminical families you'll see that. And Prabhupada said something to her mother, because her parents spoke to Prabhupada twice. And Prabhupada told her mother, you should worship the deities, and when you're worshiping the deities, your children should be there with you. Isn't that nice? So the deity worship, you have deities and they're passed down to your children. It becomes the center of your home rather than your television. So when you do the deity worship, have your kids there, they learn, and then they become initiated, and then they continue the deity worship. So that's nice. It centers the focus on the home. Okay. Now, as I said before, when you go to the temple and see the deities, when you attend arti, that's also deity worship, even if you're not on the altar. Because you're there worshiping through kirtan and worshiping through your eyes and your prayers. So that's part of deity worship. But if you have deities in your home, could be a picture, could be actual physical form, but something should be done. Some artik, especially if there's murtis, then generally one artik, one offering should be done. And sometimes if you can't do it, you can do it in your mind, like if you're traveling, you do the puja in your mind to your deities. Or ladies, if you're off the altar, it's that time of the month, you cannot touch the deities, you can do it in your mind. That's the idea. Deity worship is kind of a natural thing. Some people are really into it. They're naturally attracted to it. We were at the devotees' home yesterday, no, this morning, last night we stayed over, and they have about, I don't know, 7 sets of deities, 8 sets. And they said that people just give them to them. So that must mean they can take care of them, they like to take care of them. So, okay. There's nothing really that special here being said. Here's what they say is a requirement if you have deities. Everything cooked in the house should be offered to the deities. Arti performed at least twice a day. Wow. They're upping the standards in India. All artis must be preceded by an offering. While the family is out of station, the deities may be put to rest. I don't know about that. Better you do puja in your mind, manasa puja. Now here's a really interesting thing you may not know. There's a manasa puja, which means puja or worship in your mind. One of the standards of deity worship is before you do something, like maybe if you're just doing something simple like an arti, before you offer the incense, for example, you offer it in your mind, holding the stick. And you imagine you're offering it to the deity. So that brings your mind in focus, so when you actually offer it, your mind is there. Otherwise, you could be offering it, right, and thinking of doing something else. So that's one kind of manasa puja. The other kind is you actually do the whole worship in your mind. You know, like everything you do for the deities is done in your mind. Nothing is actually done physically. But the manasa puja, where you do it in your mind and then you do it, is recommended so that your mind is focused. It's not distracted while you're doing it. And you can do the same thing with japa. You can actually chant in your mind without saying anything to your mind. You know, a few mantras to your mind is centered and grounded, and then you can begin chanting. So you manasa japa to prepare you for real japa. Why not? Give it a try, folks. Send me a letter and see how you like it. And send me an email. Let me know if it works for you. But sometimes I do that. And just to get my mind focused, I'll chant in my mind until my mind's listening, and then I'll begin chanting. Here's some things you can do for your deities at home. You can prepare special offerings on holidays. You can make clothes. You can make jewelry. You can make garlands. And it engages everyone in the house. You see, the idea of deity worship is there's service to be done. It's personal service to the deity. So instead of wasting your human life away playing Monopoly or something, you don't have any time because the deities need your service. I was in charge of a temple that had probably one of the highest standards, if not the highest standards of deity worship in the universe. And it was a real strain on the devotees to keep up with it. It was just very demanding what we had to do. I remember some days all the women were having their menstrual cycle, so they couldn't do deity worship, and there was just a few men in the temple, and we all had to do our whole day stopped, we had to do the deity worship. It took like 4 or 5 hours just to cook the lunch offering. It was huge offerings. Yeah, 5 hours. Some devotees would spend 6 hours just cooking and cleaning the lunch offering, and that was they were exhausted after that. So it was a real strain. And I was thinking, Krishna, you are very demanding. And then Krishna said, yes, because if I'm not demanding, then you'll just go to sleep and play Monopoly or something, or just doodly-do and watch television. So it was like Krishna was extracting so much service out of our hearts, and everybody was so busy taking care of the deities, and you finally get the noon offering done. Then by 4 o'clock you have to have fruit and cakes prepared, and then by 6 o'clock we had another big offering. Then at 8:30 was another offering, and someone had to change the clothes, put the deities to sleep. It's like You know, Krishna's like, he likes it, you know, he likes things. High standard. And it was like never end. And then, you know, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, you wake him up again, and he eats sweet rice and sweets in the morning. They got to make it at night, and it just requires so many people. It's just going on and on and on. And it was obvious to me that if that wasn't going on, then so many devotees would just be idle, and so it really helped them. So deity worship has that ability to engage everybody, especially in a family. Now, in a temple, it's not necessary to have elaborate deity worship, because our focus is on preaching. But if we have enough devotees, then we can have elaborate deity worship. If the people of that country are attracted to that, then we can do that. But it's not actually necessary to have elaborate deity worship. It can be quite simple. We don't need many sets of deities and so forth. So, but in the family, also, it's even more simple. But we can do as much as we would like, where there's not, you know, there's a very minimal standard, but you can do more than that. In the temples, you have a standard which is not minimal, it's pretty high. Okay, and then you can also worship Tulsi. Take care of Tulsi. If you take care of Tulsi, helps you in your bhakti. You have a Tulsi plant, but if you have a Tulsi plant in a cold climate, then you need to grow light, and you need to keep her warm, and she likes humid weather. But Shastra says if you cultivate a Tulsi plant, you get bhakti. She gives bhakti. So it's nice if you can have Tulsi and worship Tulsi every day, at least pay obeisances and water her. And it's very good to chant in front of Tulsi, as Thakur Haridas chanted in front of Tulsi. And Nectar Devotion describes the benefits of chanting in front of Tulsi, because she's a pure devotee. And Tulsi fulfills desires. You can, whatever you require for your bhakti, you can pray to her and she'll fulfill your desire. She's mother. So every morning we're praying to Tulsi. As Narottam Das Thakur prayed, we're also reciting his prayer, that we're asking Tulsi to make us a resident of Vrindavan, to be able to see the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So Tulsi has the power to fulfill these desires. And Krishna wants his offerings with Tulsi leaves on. So, when we cook and we make the offering, we put Tulsi leaves on. Now, if you don't have a Tulsi plant, you can gather, excuse me, I'm really tired. You can gather Tulsi leaves and put them in a bag from the temple, put them in a bag, and take them home. Take a week's supply home from the temple, or someone who has a Tulsi plant, and then on every preparation you place Tulsi. And then when you, even if it's dry, even if the Tulsi leaves dry up, that's fine. You place them on each preparation. Make the offering. And then you eat those Tulsi, because it's prasadam. You can also make garlands out of Tulsi for Radha and Krishna. For Krishna, not Radha. You put Tulsi in Radharani's hands, and she'll offer them to Krishna. Okay, what else? Oh, Krishna, I am very tired. Should we cancel class? No, only kidding. Not kidding that I'm tired, I'm kidding that we would cancel class. So, you can ask your questions about deity worship, although, as I said, I'm not the deity worship guru. Pallavi says, is it all right to have more than one Krishna deity together? Well, there's no point in just having a ton of deities that you don't do anything for. I mean, you can, but Chandan's not here, but Chandan has the deity of Krishna. And I think he didn't think it was necessary to have Radharani, and he had some reason, but I didn't want to upset him and tell him that where there's Krishna, there should be Radharani, deity. But generally for us, we should worship Gaur Nitai. If you're going to worship Radha and Krishna, if you're going to actually have Radha and Krishna deities, then you should be pretty serious about it. 1 or 2 artiks, offerings, bathing, dressing. So most devotees have Gaur Nitai, they'll bathe the deities once a week. They'll offer 1 artik and 1 offering a day. Radha Krishna, you're upping the ante a little bit. So it's not that you just get deities and throw them on the altar. But deities are supposed to be bathed, they're supposed to have clothes, jewelry, so many things you can do, Put them to sleep, wake them up, you have a bed. That's the idea. Not just, let's just have, so many deities and Haribol, You know what I mean? And then you have your deities in a room where everybody's watching television and doing other stuff. It's not really ideal. That's why a lot of Indians have their little puja room, because they don't want to do their nonsense in front of the deities. So they have their puja room, which is a little closet. But in ISKCON, what we do, ISKCON devotees, not traditional Indian devotees, we have our deities in the main room. I'm giving a online class before we start. So we have, you can listen. So in ISKCON, most ISKCON devotees, the deities are the center of their house. And unfortunately, for many people, they're supposed to be the center, not always. But the idea is, if you have a deity room, then it's like in your house you're doing all kinds of stuff you wouldn't want to do in front of the deities. So you put them in a little closet, and you visit them in the morning. But actually, you really want your deities the center of your house. That closet is not really the ideal place for them, but I think that's why a lot of Indians have their closet, because in their living room, they don't do things you do in front of the deities. But most, Western devotees who are not TV addicts and don't do weird things in their living room, that's where they'll have the deities. That'll be the deities are the main. Or, anyway, not always, but sometimes. Anyway. So that's the idea. So Radha Krishna deities in your home, it's pretty serious. Better Gaur Nitai. They produce these very inexpensive Gaur Nitai deities. But if you want Radha Krishna, then do it. Be a little more serious about deity worship and put your deities to rest, wake them up, have a bed for them, have different clothes, jewelry, make flower garlands. That's it's kind of the ideal. Okay, so Anuradha said, if I'm tired, I should rest. Okay, I'll follow whatever Anuradha says. See you guys later. Haribol. Anuradha, I'll just talk slow. I'm talking very slow. And I'll put all of you to sleep. I'll be the only one awake. Pallavi has Radha and Krishna. Yeah, I know she does. Yeah, but what's the point? Worship. Guru Nish is saying, I have Radha and Krishna, but you have clothes for them, you make garlands, jewelry, you bathe them at least once a week, if not every day. Change their clothes, put them to sleep, wake them up, offer them water every day. That's minimum, even for Gaur Nitai. So, the idea is you can worship, we worship Radha and Krishna, so we don't just get Krishna, we get Radha and Krishna. That's the idea. That's the idea. You understand? Anusha's deities ran away. Wow. Amazing. Anusha has so much Shakti that her deities ran away. I didn't know, man. I didn't know deities could run like that. Amazing. Okay. Now I got a question from Kush on Skype. Wow, we're really getting high tech here. If you have more than one set of deities, should you worship all of them individually? Can you worship certain ones and consider the others have accepted? Yeah, it depends. You can't worship Gaur Nitai and then have Radha Krishna worshipped. But if you have more than one set of Gaur Nitai or more than one set of Radha Krishna, then you worship one set of Gaur Nitai. And you worship one set of Radha and Krishna. If you have Shalagram, I believe sometimes you can just worship Shalagram because Shalagram is Krishna, that's Radha and Krishna. But if you have different deities, like you have Jagannath, Gaur Nitai, you need to do artik to all of them. I mean, ideally have plates for all of them. And in temples you have small deities. You can do all the puja to small deities, and then the large deities take the worship. But it's not that if you worship Radha and Krishna, Gaur Nitai is going to get it. If you go online, there's a book called Pancharatna Pradipa, I believe. Pancharatna Pradipa. And it's a book on deity worship. And it's a book on temple deity worship, but there's a chapter on home deity worship in there. So you could get more information. I believe it's Pancharatna Pradipa. Somebody can look that up and see if they find it, if they don't. The Shalagram, you need to bathe every day, and you need to be second initiated. If you want to do worship of Shalagram or Govardhan, I mean, technically speaking, if you're not second initiated or not initiated at all, you should just really have Gaur Nitai. Ideally, and then when you're second initiated. But home worship is for me, it's a little difficult to understand because the standards are different. So I think that book, Pancharatna Pradipa, there's a section on home worship. It can answer some questions. I was actually going to ask another Pujari here. I didn't see him today. Can you worship deities if you're not initiated? Gaur Nitai. Before boys got Brahmin initiation at age 8. Yeah, they would have to get, generally, you don't worship deities unless you're Brahmanically initiated. Okay, so Anusha found the connection. She said, we're all on chat on mayapur.tv. Pancharatna Pradipa, but did we find it now? Whatever it is, something Pradipa. I had a devotee investigating, and we were going to produce a document about home deity worship, but somehow he wasn't able to do it. He said he was going to do it. So I wanted to be able to give it to devotees. When they have all these questions, like what's the actual standard? We at home we have Shalagram, we have Govardhan, we have Radha Krishna, we have Gaur Nitai. The Radha Krishna were originally, it's kind of like when you do deity worship at home, you do what you can do. So, yeah. So if you look in the link, then you have to go to the chapter on home. I believe there's a chapter on home worship in that book, Pancharatna Pradipa. So, sometimes young devotees who are not initiated, they have deities. They have Jagannath, they have Radha Krishna, they dress them like that. But technically speaking, if you want to, it's good to start with Gaur Nitai. And at least wake them up in the morning, put them to sleep, make at least one offering, do one artik, change their clothes at least once a week, change their water every day. Do something regular, take some time. And like that. And then when you get second initiation, you can think of Shalagram or Govardhan worship if you feel qualified and inspired, and Krishna comes to you in that form. Because you have to get those deities. What about Nrsimha worship? I've been told that Grihastas and unmarried girls should not worship Nrsimhadev on his own because he will get too attached and block all obstacles in your life, like he won't let you get married. So girls should worship Lakshmi and Nrsimha. Yeah. Girls or Grihastas should worship Lakshmi and Nrsimha because Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami said, because if you're married and you're worshipping Lord Nrsimhadev without Lakshmi, then it's like you shouldn't. If you're married, then worship him married, and if you're not married, then you can worship him without Lakshmi. But if there's a Nrsimha deity without Lakshmi, you should be a brahmachari, because he doesn't have a wife, so you shouldn't have a wife. Because you're worshipping him without a wife, then you don't have a wife either. As far as all the other obstacles, I don't know. But if there's doubt, just worship Lakshmi and Nrsimha. All right? Does that sound good? Okay. I have done some deity worship, but I never became expert at it. So, yeah. So, I am not the best person to ask these questions. I may misguide you down the path of ignorance in deity worship. So read that book. As far as women worshipping Lord Nrsimhadev, that I don't know. You're going to have to ask somebody who knows. And I don't know. I've actually never seen women worshipping Nrsimha. Now, as far as Shilas are concerned, till you're second initiated, you won't worship Shalagram Shila, but even if you have a Nrsimha Shila, you can worship Lord Nrsimhadev as Krishna. Any Shalagram you can worship as the deity that you worship. Krishna, Radhe Sham, Shamasundar, Kush wants a Nrsimha Shila. Well, you get initiated first and second, and then a long wait, and then ask your guru. Get permission. Then you have to get the Nrsimha Shila. And I think next time you see Indradhyumna Swami, ask him. I believe he worships Lord Nrsimhadev. So, Vainarati has a question. She's been worshipping Gopal, and she heard that he gets jealous very easily, so girls who worship him never find husbands. She wants to know if this is true. I don't think so, because in the Pushti Marg, they all worship Gopal. And they're all married. So what's the idea? You worship him and he wants you as his wife? And he doesn't want you to get married? I don't know. But generally, in our line, we worship Radha and Krishna. We don't really worship Gopal. That's the Pushti Marg and Imbarka Sampradaya, they worship. Because they're cultivating this mood of mother and son. But the Gaudiyas mood is to worship Radha and Krishna or support the worship of Radha and Krishna. So worshipping Gopal is not really something that, it's not wrong, but it's not something that Prabhupada really, he didn't establish in any of his temples. So I don't think there's any temples. I mean, sometimes we bring out a lot of Gopal and swing him on Janmashtami, but Prabhupada didn't establish that in his temples. Gaura-Nitai, Krishna Balaram, Jagannath, Radha Krishna, and occasionally Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, if you were in a place where they are worshipped by the people in general. So, I have another question. See, Kush is sending questions on chat. I guess if somehow you can't get on chat on Mayapur TV, you can send me chat on Skype. Now Kush is saying she has to have an Nrsinga Shila tomorrow. Ask somebody if women, I've never seen women worshipping them, I don't know. But there should be Brahminical initiation. So another thing Prabhupada said, if you're living in a temple community, then your focus should be on worshipping the temple deities, not on your own deities. Because he said, if you're worshipping the temple deities, that's sufficient. If you're worshipping, it takes time because you're worshipping your own deities. Now, Gaura-Nitai you can all worship now, whether you're initiated or not. And and you can worship them with 1 arti, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can bathe them every day. You can do as much as you want. There's no limitation. But generally you want to maintain a standard. And even in a lot of temples, Gaura-Nitai, we have Radha and Krishna, but Gaura-Nitai is sufficient. I remember in Portland, Oregon, I used to travel up there, Portland, Seattle. In Portland, Oregon, it just had Gaura-Nitai deities, and I always felt that temple was very, very blissful. I always felt special there, just Gaura-Nitai. That Laguna Beach, they have Pancha Tattva. What about Krishna Balaram? Whoa. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's a very ambiguous topic about home deity worship. All these deities, nobody's initiated. See, Shalagram you don't have to install. He's already Krishna. Generally you install deities. I don't say there's any harm in worshipping Krishna Balaram, Radha Krishna, whatever, even if you're not initiated, but still, you an expert on deity worship? But all these questions about home worship I can't answer because it's like Gaura Keshava, he's an expert on deity worship, and he said, at home you worship your deity like he eats when you eat. It's like he gets up when you get up. But, uninitiated devotees worshipping Radha and Krishna, I don't know. What's it?
Be up to the guru, I think.
They're asking me.
I know, that's right.
They're asking me.
Gaura-Nitai doesn't accept offenses.
The gurus, I told everyone to worship Gaura-Nitai. As far as the others, We need to ask experts in the field. And why don't you ask some experts? So next time you go to the temple, find some expert pujari and say, I want to worship Krishna Balaram in my home. Is that okay? My guru he's totally bewildered. He has no idea how to answer this question. I want to worship Radha and Krishna. Is that okay? My guru has no idea what to say. You know, when Prabhupada established deity worship in ISKCON, he told the devotees to learn from his godbrothers, since he said he doesn't know all the details. Prabhupada did home worship. He had his own deities. But details of temple worship he wasn't familiar with. So I'm following suit, but just backwards. I'm more familiar with temple standards, but home standards, it's kind of self-made.
Yeah.
So Kush, you can worship Kornitai, for sure. If you want to worship Krishna Balaram. Shalagram, you'll have to wait. And you'll ask some pujari who knows if can women worship Nishringa Shilas.
Lakshmi Purushika probably, but
Lakshmi Nishringa.
probably though.
Not, definitely not Nishringa. Lakshmi Nishringa.
Radha has some.
Mamaji worships Nishringa Shila, and I know one other lady who also does, but they're both renunciates.
Oh, there's two ladies who are renunciates. They're worshipping Nishringa Shila. But then maybe to put a little Lakshmi there. But you still have to wait to be initiated, second initiated. Now, if you go to Gaudiya Math, maybe you can get your initiation faster, but I don't recommend it. Hare Krishna. Okay, so I hope you understand that. Worshiping deities, you should have some standard, and all your food should be offered and like that. Okay, who's here? Are my old friends coming? I'm in San Diego. I could tell. She was already half here, right?
Yeah. For a representative, she sent a representative to make sure everything was cool.
Fantastic. Mayapur.
Oh, really?
She's in Mayapur for the last 3 years, yeah. One of Braj's friends is here. Used to live in Alachua. So, whoa, there we go. Okay. So any other questions about deity worship that I can't answer? The next section's on austerity. Well, they have a few other things to say. Kind of common sense. When you're threading needles, don't put them in your mouth. Don't put the thread in your mouth. Flowers clothes should not be placed on the floor on a special cloth. Nothing touching the floor should touch the deities. Fragrant and uncontaminated flowers should be used. You know the story in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this devotee, I think it was Raghava Pandit, he went very far to get these like special coconuts. And he had somebody bring them, and then he brushed against the wall, or something happened where some dust fell on the coconuts. And he said, can't offer them because the dust that's on the wall was once kicked up by the feet of people. So it touched their feet, and now they're unofferable. So you want to keep strict standards of cleanliness when you're doing deity worship. You want to take bath, clean clothes that have not been slept in, clothes that have not been in the bathroom. That's ideal. That's Brahminical standards. We had discussed this in another class. Brahminical standards. So, as far as possible, you follow them in your home. Very strictly followed in temples. And there's a nice story I may have told before, but Prabhupada was once explaining how we make offerings. Now that Radha Dasi is making offerings, it reminded me that Prabhupada said the mood is you bring what we call boga, before it's offered. Food before it's offered is boga. We bring that, we put it on the plate, put tulsi on each preparation, and we say, Krishna, I brought this to you, and this doesn't have much value. It's just simple food, and I don't have much value. And everything I don't own much. I'm just kind of valueless. So I can't really offer anything to you of any value. But I brought this offering. So I beg you, you please accept. This is how Prabhupada explained, this is the mood of offering boga to the deity. And then Prabhupada started crying. But then he said, be careful. You're dealing with Krishna. Don't get puffed up. There was a phenomena early in the movement that pujaris were becoming proud. They thought they were like in a special position. They were dealing with Krishna directly. And they were becoming proud. I don't know if it happens anymore, but apparently it was happening then. So then he said this. He said, don't become proud. You're dealing with Krishna. So that's the idea. And also the idea is that Krishna's coming to accept our service, which is kind of him because we're not really qualified to give it, but he's doing us a favor by letting us serve him. So that's nice of him, right? What about Lord Jagannath? What about Lord Narasimha? Picture, yes. Picture's not being worshipped. It's not being worshipped arti. As a deity, picture of Lord Nrsimhadev is on every altar, but it's not worshipped. The Nrsimha deity may be worshipped. Some temples have deities of Lord Nrsimhadev, but they're not worshipped. They're not like central on an altar. It's just there as the protector. So yes, the picture is good. Picture should be on everyone's altar of Lord Nrsimhadev. And Jagannath, you can worship Jagannath. Jagannath is kind. Children like Jagannath, and he likes children. But same ideas, you should change their water every day, wake them up, put them to sleep, one artik, one offering. So you're making an artik, an offering for your other deities, you can add them. But it's not like a contest of how many deities can you fit on your altar. But it's nice if your, children help you in doing your deity worship. Why is a deity different from a picture? In one sense, it's not. But the deities are meant to accept worship directly. You can directly bathe them, change their clothes, so on. But you can do much to the deities. You can take water and pour it in front of the deities and meditate. I think I'm going to have to end class because so many people are coming. So, Jai. So we're going to have to say goodbye, unfortunately.